right now.
You were busy today.
Yeah.
Big
real
news.
Busy. Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
You kind of hid that from us yesterday, didn't you, when you met the media?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell us about how that all unfolded.
No, it was just well, first I'm really really happy we were able to get this done. Talking with Flus, to extend a player that embodies everything that you stand for and what you want in a Chicago Bear was a big deal to both of us. Cole's dependable. He's tough, smart, great locker room guy, and we're absolutely excited to get that done with him. But it was a long process. It's always a battle with the agents to get things done, but I'm glad we could find common ground.
This was in the works for a while then? You guys had been, I think Cole said you guys had been talking since minicamp.
Yeah. Yep. It's been a while.
And it's interesting, like Waddle and I have talked about this with you. In that when you guys had the first overall pick, you were super transparent with you going to Peter King and you're telling Peter King, I'm ready to deal. It could happen at any day. Yesterday, you go into the press room and you're like, I'm not talking about deals. And then the next day it happens. Take us through your process on when you're open and when you shut things down.
Yeah, I think there's just a ton of hypotheticals when you go into the draft. So there's uncertainty. So I don't mind talking about like the wide range of things that could happen and where we're interested in. There's just too many things that could happen, and so it doesn't really tip your hand or anything like that. With conversations with guys internally, I really feel like that's internal business. That's personal. Even seeing the dollar amounts of things come across Twitter, it's a tough thing. 'Cause I feel like that's a personal conversation that's tough to get out. So I protect that. Let the players, if they want to talk about it, that's fine. But that's kind of where I draw the line. It's just there's so many opportunities in the draft. You have no idea which is going to happen. But with the player, it's internal business, and I feel like we keep that private.
Now, you won't get, obviously, the specifics of it all, but is the door open for more stuff like this to happen? And is there a point in the season when you will say, you know what, we close the door on that, and that time has passed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think we'll ever close the door. I think we'll have internal discussions to see if this works for us, if this works for a player, if we can find common ground or not. It's different for everybody. So we always stay opportunistic. We always have conversations. Our doors are open, and we just take it as it goes. And if we find like it's a good thing for the Chicago Bears, then we do it.
Truthfully, is it harder for a player that you inherit to win you over than your own guy?
No, I mean, I will say this: the longer you're here and you can build relationships, that does matter. You're trying to build those relationships, and there's trust involved that goes both ways. The same with the coaching staff, with players. So, but once we got a year under our belt, like I feel comfortable with the guys, and you get to know them even better. So I don't think there's anything held against anyone that you didn't draft or you haven't, that you didn't draft for the long term. So yeah.
Speaking of the comfort level, how is the start of training camp this year? What emotions are you feeling this year, and how are they different than last year when training camp began?
Yeah, there's a lot of obstacles when we first walked through the door. Resources were thin, but now this is the real first, I feel like, big step in terms of, all right, you're starting to see the guys that you drafted last year coming to year two. You're seeing the guys that you drafted early, and really all through the draft this past year. There's free agents mixed in, so you're starting to see that core come together, and also some of your recent decisions and how do they affect the team. And it's fun. It's fun to see what we look like now compared to last year. You get excited, and I feel like we're heading in the right direction.
And that is significantly different than last year, like you said, when you had different challenges, and maybe you're like, oh my God, like oh boy.
Yep.
But now it's joy and excitement and optimism.
Yeah. Especially there's so many different kind of things happening that you're seeing guys develop. You're seeing guys take the next step in their careers. You're seeing guys get comfortable in the system for their second year. So it's coming along well. Even that's practice one. It's early. If you've been doing football long enough, training camp practice one is not going to tell you the story of how it's going to go all the way through. But I love how today went
Yeah.
and how fast guys are playing.
Ryan Poles joining us. It's Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000. Building on that, like you said, and like Eberflus says, when guys come in for their second camp under the same system, they feel much different.
Right.
You in your second year as general manager, do you just have a better comfort for this whole thing going through your second camp now?
For sure. I think, that first year you're setting the foundation for your process. Like, how are we going to do certain things? And sure, you have a philosophy before you even got the job of how you're going to do things, but you actually had to put them into practice. So you get that process going, you're getting to know everybody, new staff, new location. Shoot, even personally, I moved like 4 times last year. So for that to be settled and have some continuity, you feel way more comfortable in the process. You have confidence in how you're doing things. So yeah, we feel way better in the second year.
You moved houses 4 times?
It was brutal. Yeah.
Because there's still, we were just talking to Big Cat, I think yesterday about this. Like, it doesn't matter how old you get or how rich you are. Moving is still the worst thing you can do.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
And I know you've reached out to other general managers, and you have a good thing with people all across, and you had Polian to help you. In the first year of your job, what do you think, does something stick out on the best advice that you received?
I would say the biggest one was, whatever you do today sets a precedent of how you're going to do things down the road. So if you're going to allow something to happen today, then you're going to do it again and again and again. So if that's negotiating, if that's draft, if everyone's watching what you're doing. So you got to have a standard of how you're going to operate. You got to have rules of how you're going to operate. So to be consistent over a long period of time, you have to remember that. So I really try to be consistent. I really try to do things the right way and be disciplined with it so that, again, we can have success over a long period of time.
With that in mind, how has the hiring of Kevin Warren impacted you as a person and as a general manager of an NFL franchise?
Yeah, I've talked about it before. It's just having a mentor, and he feels that way to me. We have really good conversations in terms of life, in terms of this business. It's another resource to bounce ideas off of, because nothing is black and white in this game in terms of making decisions. There's a ton of gray, and you gotta say yes, you gotta say no, and to have someone to talk to is really important. So having him right next door is a big add for me.
Is every decision have to run through him, or is it your choice that you would want to make every decision with his input as part of it?
Yeah, it's definitely a choice, and he's been awesome about that. So I just like to have a sounding board. Okay, this is the decision we're going to make. We're going to write out all the scenarios. We're going to write out the pros and the cons. We're going to, all the research, the analytics that go with it. And I like to sit down with him and be like, all right, this is the plan going forward. And he's going to ask a few questions. And it's not really in a challenging way. It's just, have you thought about this, this, and this? And it's a lot of times so far it's been, this is the reason why we're doing this. This is the reason why we're doing that. And he's like, cool, let's roll.
What's the best piece of advice he's given you in this short period of time you guys have been coworkers?
I don't know. I can't speak on like a one thing of advice, but really just.
Did he tell you to go home at one point because you were working too hard and just go get some rest?
That's actually a good one. He actually did. He told me to. I think it was after the draft. He was like, you got to get out of here. And I was like, nah, once the summer breaks. He's like, no, you need to get out of the office and go catch your breath. So I did it. It was really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of him, you guys are still a long way away from announcing stadium stuff, even settling on that. But like your house, and like when you buy a car, we all have wish lists. Have you thought about a wish list that you would want for your perfect stadium?
I always have. So this is before like any of this is gone down or even been thought about. But I think when you go into the different stadiums around the league, you're like, oh, that's really cool. You go down to Dallas, like that was the big, crown jewel there for a while, and how the buses go straight down to drop you off at the front door. So, just as a football person, like going to these different stadiums, you see kind of the cool things and kind of come
You
over
realize
here.
you're not getting the ocean breeze through the stadium like SoFi, right? So
Right.
you got to rule that out.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work yourself this offseason, especially inside that offensive huddle. You've given Justin some stuff to work on, to work with, rather. What do you believe he needs to work on to reach his potential? What are certain things that he needs to get better at?
Yeah, just being more efficient. Being more efficient in terms of, obviously he's going to know the offense a lot better than he did last year. So getting the ball out of his hands, making really precise, decisions. Third down, 2-minute things is what we're looking for, because we all know in this league, like, to really get over the hump and to win those 50-50 games, that last drive or even before half is really important. So being efficient in the 2-minute is huge and critical. So there's a ton of different places where he can continue to work, but just, I would say, overall efficiency would be big for me.
Were you really happy with how Luke adjusted some of his stuff over the course of the season to take advantage not only of what Justin did well, but some of the other people inside the huddle, what they were doing well?
Yeah, and he's going to continue to do that. We talked about that in the offseason, just in terms of putting guys in position to be successful. And really that first year, we're trying to figure out what that is. And I thought he did a good job. We could see that coming off that mini bye. We made some adjustments. So I was encouraged by that, and I think we'll continue to do that.
Yeah. One of the things that we always break down, and in this town, like when we talk Justin, the phone lines light up, and
Right.
like everyone's got an opinion on Justin. We're trying to break down the rushing game, and he rushed for a lot of yards, and he even said he wants to throw for 4,000. Do you guys want to really scale back the run, or do you think that he does it so well that you still don't want to take away what he does best?
No, I think he's got to do what he does best. I think you can be, thoughtful how many times you put him in harm's way. But I think what he can do is with the threat of the run, he can open up things, big plays down the field as well, and really put teams in a tough position. So it's always going to be a balance. I think it's always going to be a big tool for him. It's just, can he be efficient as a passer? Because then, I don't know how you defend that. Now we have talent where the field is spread out. He can run. He can go over the top. There's a lot of different options. Now you got two tight ends in the middle. So as he gets efficient, that's a tough place to be as a defense coordinator.
Yeah, and like I was joking with Waddle today, as a guy who grew up as a Bears fan, he's a little more tempered. Like you were joking about the first day of training camp. It's you got to
Brings
take
back
it with a
some
grain of
crappy
salt.
memories for me.
I get very excited when I see some of these splash plays.
Yep.
The DJ Moore throw into the corner of the end zone when he scored a touchdown today. The throw, the catch. Do you say to yourself, man, that's the reason why we got DJ Moore? I mean, to me, he's the guy, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I get excited when I see those big plays too. It's going to help us. And again, when you start widening the field and going deep, again, it opens it up for everybody. So I'm excited to see that connection grow, and as well as with the other guys too.
Are you happy with the receiver room at this point? And what can we expect to see from Mooney and Claypool with regard to as training camp develops? Because they both are coming back from different things.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said at the press conference, there's a plan for everyone in terms of getting the reps up and up to speed. I think sometimes you got to protect the guys more than anything, because they want to go get it right now. They're excited too to see what's going on in the field. So, they'll ramp up, according to how our performance and numbers are coming back after each practice. But it's going to be a good combination. I'm happy with that room. I think it's significantly better than what we were before. It's explosive. It's dynamic. There's a lot of different types, which I like.
And then obviously that the Chase Claypool topic's a hot button too. Mm-hmm. Do you still have as high of hopes for Chase as you did the day that you traded for him?
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I've talked about this before, but, that position, the outside receiver, he can play inside too, but that's a tough place to be when you have to insert into a new team, new scheme. There's packages put in place. It's really hard. You don't get training camp, the off season. So, there was a little bit choppy early, but I'm hopeful he's going to have a really good year, and I know he needs a good year, and he's talked about that openly. So, I'm expecting him to help us.
We heard the audio of you meeting the media yesterday. I didn't see your face, so I didn't see the video. I can envision you kind of glowing and smiling when you were talking about Darnell Wright.
Yeah.
What is it about him that's got you so excited?
Yeah, it's the upside. I mean, he has a long ways to go. He's going to be a rookie. We're going to see the ups and downs. There's no doubt about that. But the way that he's approached this offseason is, you know, you have rookies that come in and they're kind of just feeling themselves out and like, how am I going to fit in this thing? And this kid attacked the offseason. He's attacked the springtime, and he's come in shape, and that's always a big hurdle. Like, you can see how locked in guys are when they come off the summer. You get some money in your pocket, you get to go travel around, there's not structure, and he created structure for himself. He had a plan, he stuck to the plan. He's in shape, he does extra. I mean, after this last practice, he's running a few extra gases to make sure that his wind is there. So
he's huge, and he's a good huge.
Oh, he's a good huge, and I can't wait to put the pads on and really see him get going.
We had Louis Riddick on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
He said, all pro Darnell Wright. Is that a little big of a big leap here in the rookie year? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking about, like, this is the type of player that you drafted?
So, like Flu said, we don't put ceilings on our guys in terms of what he's capable of doing this year. But there's a lot of details and a lot of work he's got to get done before he gets to that point. Is it in him? Absolutely, it's in him. So I'm excited to see him go attack that and get better every day.
How about your running back room? Like, there's a lot of conversation in the NFL universe right now about the devaluing of the running back position. But has this worked out perfectly for you guys? Different guys do different things well. And when you put them together, kind of like Kansas City did, obviously they've got the ultimate trigger guy there at quarterback. But is the combo exactly what you're looking for in the backfield?
Yeah, there's a combination. They're all very different. It's going to be a good competition to see who kind of stacks up in that room. But yeah, you get different types, and it'll be, and that's the tough thing about training camp too. Until we get to preseason games where it's tackle football, it's really hard to determine, who is 1, 2, or 3, or 4. So we'll let those guys get to some padded practices and into games, and we'll see if they separate themselves.
So as I said earlier, we're still trying to learn how to interpret you. Like, this is still a new relationship.
Yeah.
So, like, I loved what you said to Peter King.
Yeah.
And then you didn't want to talk about the contracts. When you were on with Black and Abdallah earlier around springtime, you had me convinced that either a trade or a signing of a pass rusher was going to happen, and it was imminent. I'm like, Poles is putting his balls on the table right again. He's telling us that it's coming soon. And yesterday in the press conference, you're like, well, look, we like a lot of guys in our room. And to me, I said to Waddle, I don't know. It doesn't sound like now a pass rusher is coming.
Okay.
What can you honestly tell us about your pursuit of a pass rusher?
Yeah, everything I said, there's truth to it. We're excited about the guys that we have here. We're always going to explore other opportunities, and we're constantly doing that. I think the tough thing, and probably what you're reading, is it takes a team and a player to come to agreement on something, or another team for a trade. So it's hard to say 100% like something's going to happen or not, but we stay locked in. We're working on those different options, and you just never know if they're going to happen or not. So,
did you think you were close at one time?
No, not like something was imminent, like it was going to happen the next day. It wasn't like something just kind of fell off, but we've been on, a bunch of different situations, so we'll see what happens.
How about the back half of your defense? Is ultimately, in a perfect world, does Stevenson anchor one of your cornerback positions and you kick Kyler inside and you play with that type of setup?
That's the way we've started right now.
Yeah.
And that kid, Tyreek's done a really good job early. Again, like any rookie, he's going to have ups and downs, but he's mentally tough. He'll be able to weather the storm. So, obviously, he's going to keep competing. We'll keep evaluating to see if he can stay where he's at. And then, what Kyler's done inside has been really good, too. Right. So, it's a good setup. Really excited about our secondary, too. Lines up really well. Happy we did what we did last year and took good players because it's showing up now.
Who's your favorite player on this team? Now, I say that. Now, wait a second. This is like, I'm a father of 4, and I could tell you which one of my daughters is my favorite based on the different seasons of the different situations that are going on. When you close your door and you just like, that's my guy. Like, I know you love them all the same in some ways, but when you close the door, who's your guy?
I can't say that.
Come on,
No, like I really don't have favorites. I love all these guys, and I really mean that. Like, we got a really good crew. Like,
sounded like Darnell is one of your favorites.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's his only first-round pick.
When you pick someone at 10, he better be your favorite. But no, you bring up a good point. Like, we have such a good locker room right now. I think Coach talked about the leadership committee, and he was reading through all the names, and I'm like, that's a good group of dudes. Not only just in the way that they work in the locker room, but off the field too. So I've been excited, and no one talks about that. Like, you're growing as a football team and increasing talent, but when you can do that and have a really good locker room with good dudes there, to me, that's a winning culture right there.
Who's knocking on your door? Not looking for money, but knocking on your door saying, hey, Ryan, man, like, I really like what's going on here. Maybe we can do this too. Is there anybody that's knocking on your door?
That's obviously knocking for money. If you're saying
it's said without money. It's said without money. Money comes secondary. If you accomplish on the field, the money will come.
This is professional sports. If they're knocking at the door, it's money. that's everybody.
They all want money.
Yeah.
No one is up there. Maybe they start with, hey, you know what? This is really going well. And by the way, can I get some money?
We're all like that, right?
So I was busting Waddle's chops about this, and I met a lot of his BC friends at his daughter's wedding a couple weeks ago. They
make us different at BC. We're different.
Yeah,
people.
it really is.
Yeah.
You
It's
guys,
a brotherhood.
You guys have a different level too.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So when you're at BC, do you guys learn the history? Obviously, you know about Flutie and stuff like that. Did you know who Tom Waddle was when you're playing at? So what'd you know?
There's a fiber that runs through all of us, which is a guy named Barry Gallup.
Yes.
And then my dad went there too. So like, it's a long history. I got pictures of being a little kid running on Alumni Field. So I wouldn't say it's like we take the time to do the whole history, but you see.
Look, we're not Ohio State or
Right.
Michigan, but we've got our own history and culture.
Yeah.
Like, we always joke with Waddle that he was a couple of years after Flutie, and he was a couple of years after the '85 Bears.
Yeah, I missed everybody.
So what you have to do is you have to deliver for Waddle so he can be finally a part of something special.
Let's get it done.
Yeah, because he's missed everything.
I have. I'm happier than you portray me, but you're right. I'd love to celebrate a title with you.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So do you feel this town, like, you came from Kansas City, which obviously has this passionate fan base. It's smaller, it's different, but Chicago, starving, loves football. Can you just feel this town and what it's thirsting for?
Absolutely, and I love it too. Anywhere I went this summer, I was at the baseball field. I feel like every weekend watching my son play, and fans were coming up and just expressing that they were excited about what's going on. So that's what brings the energy, and there's nothing like that process to start to win and have a stadium feel different than what it did before. There's optimism, and I talked about it before, but when you walk into the stadium and you expect to win, like, that's a fun place to be, and that's where we want to get this place.
Ryan, we appreciate your time. Thank you. Go get it done.
Yeah.
There he is, Bears general manager Ryan Poles. We'll talk about it coming up next. It's Waddle and Sylvie live at Hallis Hall.